we're running out of time. We have an engine and a transmission that does not belong to this car, but it has to be put in that car. I've never made my own engine mounts. I've never made my own transmission mount. What the heck am I doing here? Today's goal is to make this engine fit in the car where it's not supposed to be, as well as get our new 318 figured out and ready and inspect everything and see how good it looks on the inside. We have it currently on the stand from last video. We have some upgrades, some changes, some fixes that we need to make happen, and then we're gonna put it in here. But I've got an engine, I've got a transmission, and a welder. I don't know if I should be allowed to have that. But regardless of the fact, we need an engine in this car. So stick around and see if we can make this thing actually fit. But if you haven't already, make sure you go down to the link below, order your Roadsteration stickers because they're fantastic. They're high quality, glossy stickers. Chef's kiss on all that. And you guys are the best because every bit of money that we get from those stickers goes directly back into this 1958 Plymouth and every car you see in here, because we throw all of our money into projects that shouldn't have it. The cross member has mounts on it that are welded on, and Chrysler engineers knew better than I did. We're gonna cut all that away and make it up as we go. Now the things that we're gonna do is literally use mounts that I found in the floor of a barn and glue them together with weld. So that's exactly how it's gonna happen. The thing is about all this stuff, we're still doing the traditional hot rodder motive. We're making things happen that shouldn't have been put together, but we're gonna do it out of necessity and because it's cool. So we wanna use what we have laying around for as little money as possible and make this thing awesome. So stick around to the end of the video. I hope you guys really enjoy it because I've had so much fun. Even though it's been stressful and crazy, I've really enjoyed it. We're running out of time. We have to be at Mo Party at September 16th or 18th. This car is gonna be there no matter what. Regardless if it runs or not, we're showing up with this car. And a lot of other cars that are in this stable as well. So make sure you're there. I'll be making a video if you're not there, but it'd be a lot cooler if you were. You can register at Holly Mo Party already online, or you can just show up the day of and do it. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll see you at the end. What the heck kind of hand motion was that, Dylan? Good Lord. Last episode we talked about getting this engine torn down, inspected, and checking out what was actually inside. And I have a lot of parts for this thing. We actually have a literal truckload over there that has everything we need to get this thing back on the road. Now this engine here, as we mentioned in the last video, is something that I traded for. It has the small port 318 heads, and I want the large port 360 heads. We've got a set over here we got to take off. So let's get this thing taken down, check out the internals, and see what we have inside. You're probably going to hear a lot of rain throughout this video because it is coming a flood right now. If you remember whenever we took the flathead apart, it had some serious ring ridge. I dragged my fingernail across this and you could hear it literally drag. On this engine, dead silent. There is zero ring ridge on this engine right now. It may be hard to tell on camera, but there's still some very good cross hatching on here. Let me see if I can light it up for you. You might be able to see it, but this is a very low mileage engine right here with no ring ridge whatsoever. So I think we really got a good engine right here. This is nice. Now he did put a set of new head gaskets on it. I know I had to ruin them to take them off, but it's for an upgrade, believe it or not. This engine, it does have low miles, it's very good. And probably what it was a short block. If I had to guess, these heads may have been like the original replacement ones. I don't know. They're not bad. I mean, probably just been cleaned up, had some carbon buildup on them, but they're not bad. But again, those intake ports being smaller, we can help that out, increase a little bit of flow, go with a different set. Turns out it was probably a good thing that we took these heads off. This coolant port was actually blocked by that head gasket. That's not good. So it's, it's best that we were doing this. I didn't realize that was like that. I guess these particular head gaskets just don't have that port for some reason. It had it in the rear, but it didn't have it in the front. I don't know. So it's a good thing we're checking this. We'll check the other cylinder head, but that one right there was completely blocked off. This one's unbolted. I want to see how this one looks as far as the head gasket goes. Yeah, look at that. There's a coolant port right here. Yeah, that one got covered. Look at that. That one got covered. That one got covered. And this is the major one. That one got covered. Isn't that crazy? Now, I can't blame Jamie because, I mean, of course you would think if you bought a set of head gaskets for this engine that it would actually work. But for some reason, they covered up all the coolant ports. I wanted to pull the oil pan off real quick. Check, make sure we have a rear main seal that's good. We've got all the brand new gaskets and everything, just to be on the safe side. This here is a car pan. It's been changed. So, I mean, this is kind of what we need. That car really requires something like a center sump. I don't know if this is gonna be the right pan for it. We may have to modify it to even fit the cross member, but we're gonna do our best to see if this actually works. All right, let's get this pan off of here, see what we got. There's a bug in the pickup. That's nice. Everything looks pretty clean though. Supposed to have a new oil pump and pickup, so that all looks nice. Yep. The rear main was not changed. So let's just take this off. All right, we'll pull the oil pump off. Let's take a look at everything. I really don't want to put all this together and realize, oh gosh, the rear main is leaking everywhere. Here we go. New rear main seal, 2-piece, done. Now we can bolt the main cap back on and then get everything back where it needs to sit. Got some goodies over here loaded up onto the trailer. Now what this is a 318 out of a mid-80s Chrysler police car. I got a lot of comments saying that 318s never came with a 4-barrel intake. Here's one right here from the factory. What they did was gave the police cars the 4-barrel intake and they put 360 heads on them because they have the larger intake ports. Now this engine right here was from a mid-80s police car. It was in my 1974 Dart Sport. That was my first car I ever had. So I'm gonna use just a few small parts off of this thing and maybe use it later on, who knows. The transmission that was originally from that police car is in that car right there. We have a lot of other stuff here on the trailer. We got an overdrive 4-speed bell housing, 8 3/4 rear end, all sorts of overdrive 4-speeds. All this is gonna go towards our 58 Plymouth. You know what the smart thing would be? Put an automatic transmission in this thing, because that would be really not complicated at all. But I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna put a manual transmission in this thing. This is a Chrysler overdrive unit. It has 4 gears, 4 forward gears, and final drive is overdrive. And it's like 0.71, I think. But check out how Chrysler did it. They have the 3rd and 4th lever is flipped upside down, as you can see here. So whenever you're actually going into 3rd gear, you're really going into 4th gear. And then when you go into 4th gear, you go into what the new 3rd gear is, which is that overdrive gear set. It's an aluminum case, it's pretty lightweight, and it'll be perfectly fine behind our little 318. Now, this one right here, I don't know if I'm gonna use it. I've got a bunch of them, but I love these things. I actually have one of these in my Challenger behind a 5.7 Hemi, so I know they're stout enough to survive against that. This one came out of a truck, and I think our shifter location is gonna be perfectly suited to make this thing work. So the plan here is to bolt this to a 318 and mock everything up. I've got a V8 bell housing, got this transmission, and we're gonna put it all together and see how can we make this thing fit in a 58 Plymouth when it was never actually supposed to be in it. Because what's cooler than driving an old car? Driving an old car with a manual. Okay, this is gonna be... Oh, that's heavy. Here's the situation. We've got the original pedestals for where the engine was originally mounted, and they held like a little rubber biscuit that's kind of like what they use in the later years, which is kind of like what we're going for. Now I think what I can do is get away with is cutting these off, slide them back and weld them back on. But before I go that far, let's just see what we have here, because this is the engine I was going to take apart and actually use some parts off of, but instead we're going to use it to mock up everything before we start bolting stuff in. This is probably $200, I'd say. Bell housing, I think I paid 50 bucks for, so there you go, 250 bucks, came with all the shifter linkage and everything. So we're gonna set this in here. It actually uses the exact same oil pan as what's on our engine right now, so everything should be pretty much exactly the same as what we're about to put in. Man, that was a lot of work, but the engine is sitting in the engine bay and it looks pretty good. It looks like it's actually supposed to be in there. Now where we actually see the mounts lining up, pretty much where I thought it would be. We're gonna have to move this back so you can see this is where the mount for the engine is supposed to sit, right here. There's the cross member. So I think if we slide the pedestal back to line up with here, we can probably make it work. I've got some truck mounts. The truck mounts sit really tall for the engine. So I think that that actually might be the ticket to make all that work. And probably the best part about all of this is the oil pan looks like it's gonna fit. Look at that. It does not get much better than that, guys. So the engine is pretty much relatively close to where it needs to be. We're gonna recheck where the transmission crossmember sits, maybe get a little bit more level where it's supposed to lie in there. But overall, that's a huge step in the right direction. Next step is to literally just start cutting all these mounts off. I think if I line up everything where it's supposed to sit right now, be pretty close. So we're gonna take 1,000 pictures of everything where stuff measures up, where it's supposed to line up. And the best part about it is you have adjustment in here. You have adjustment by putting the mounts on either side of the tabs for where the engine sits. You've got all sorts of room that you can play around with and make sure the mounts sit in the right location. These are the truck mounts. This side is okay, but I think the engine might be a little bit crooked. The level says it's not, but look how much difference there is on this side, which there is a mount on this side, the rubber tab, but it's touching the cross member. There's a lot more room over here. And the thing about Chrysler is they offset their engines to this side. So to make this work, I really don't want to move the line of the mount where they're sitting. I would much rather just cut them and slide them straight back, which the engine could be sitting a little bit crooked in comparison to the car, but I really don't think it is. To fix this situation, I think the car mounts may be the better option. The truck mounts are like a pedestal mount. As you can see, they're very tall. This is a car mount, much shorter, much more compact, but we'll take the same kind of mount it looks like. So I'm gonna try this. Let's swap these out and see how they look. These mounts, not too fun to cut out, but we got it done. And I think the best thing to do is reuse these. Now the thing is that I measured the engine where it was sitting at with the little rubber pad on and the mounts in place, and we determined that it seemed like relatively 3 inches down from this mounting pad was the ideal location. It cleared the oil pan, cleared everything else. So what I'm gonna do is measure down straight from this pad all the way around 3 inches across. see if that works. Maybe give like a 1/4 inch extra, and then we can, kind of massage it in place. But that's kind of where we're at. And then we can kind of locate it where the mount needs to sit, but I want it centered with that cross member. I've still got the original mounts on the engine, so let's trim these down, cut them, and see if we can make this thing fit in there. And then once we do that, we'll get to welding. So after some careful investigation, I mounted all of these pedestals up to the existing mounts. Now earlier I mentioned I had this truck mount. I don't think it's going to work. To use this, and being this tall, I'd have to cut so much off of this pedestal to make it work. I don't want to do that. So I decided to modify this car mount just like I have on the other side, but I had to flip it. So these mounts are originally supposed to be on this side of these tabs. I had to put it on this side because I want this mount hole to line up with the cross member. Because if I don't, I'm going to start cutting into the pan or our cross member together. Don't want to do that. So I cut this little flared end off, relocated the mount holes, and then ground this side of the mount to where it kind of fits flush with the block. I'm going to bolt all this together. It's on. Will it work? I guess we'll find out. Here's the part where my microphone decided to cut out while I was explaining this. What I wanted to do was see how the mounts fit. I didn't like the way that it was oriented. There wasn't enough space for it to work. And whenever it was at such a severe angle because of the way that they mounted the 6-cylinder, it just didn't work. So I had a last-ditch effort to unbolt these mounts and rotate them in towards the cross member, except that didn't work either. So now I'm back to square one. Going back to the drawing board. I've been racking my brain trying to figure out how to make these mounts work. I mean, look at this. This is very specific for that flathead 6-cylinder, so it's really hard to make this work. I can't figure it out. So I closed my eyes, said a prayer. I said, God, show me how to make these mounts work. How am I going to mount this engine in this car? It was like a smack in the back of the head. He said, hey, dummy, this is how you're going to do it. Check this out. Truck mounts. Look, remember these? This is the mount that we were using earlier, except I've added those as pedestals. So we have the car mount here, the rubber biscuit isolator, and then a truck mount. So basically that fits right on the cross member and works as the pedestal I'm needing. Now on this side, I had to use this little dinky one, and it just so happens I've got another one. I got a bunch of these truck mounts because they basically use this exact same truck mount for small blocks from like 72 to 93. So they're plentiful, and I have a lot of these. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna use this, cut it down, get it to fit flush, weld it in, and then there's our pad. That works for me, guys. Plenty of clearance, plenty of room. Whew, one step closer to making this thing work. I swear, I've been going round and round trying to make that work. This is the driver's side mount, and I messed up and accidentally cut this piece a little too short. So what I did was tuck this one up under here on the other side. This is another scrap mount that I had, slid it up under it, measured where it needed to be, and then welded the two pieces together on both sides. I know it looks a little bit janky, but I genuinely think it'll work. Holy macaroni, we have finally pulled the engine hoist away, and the 318 is sitting there under its own weight on the mounts that I flippin' welded and put in there. Look at that. That actually worked. I don't know if I should be excited or nervous for the fact that this thing is actually in here, but it's in here. Now just imagine when this is the actual engine that we're putting in here. That's gonna be awesome. So I just can't wait to finally see this thing actually fire up, but now we can kind of tackle the things that I can handle, like radiator, belts, pulleys, hoses, all that stuff. That stuff I can tackle. This was the big deal. This was the hardest part of this entire part for me because I've never had to do this before, but now it's done. Check that out. Even our flip mount, it's looking good. Check that out. It's in there. Woo. I like it. I like it a lot. Now that's inspiring. I am very motivated now to finally get this car on the road and complete our roadstoration after this thing's been sitting for at least 30 years at this point. The 318 sitting between the fenders of that car, it's awesome, it's beautiful. Now I can't wait to get our engine in there. In the next video, we're gonna tackle getting that engine put together, getting the engine bay prepped, and getting everything else finished up. This is fantastic. I cannot wait to finally see this car on the road. Now I wanted to show the entire detailed thought process and what I went through with making these engine mounts, because I think it's important for you guys at home to understand that just because I make YouTube videos and just because you guys see the stuff I build on the internet, that doesn't mean I'm more qualified or better or more capable than anyone else. I just happen to make videos on what I do. That means that you guys at home can do exactly what I'm doing on a shoestring budget and make it happen. I paid $0 for those mounts. I, again, found them in the floor of a barn, and you probably could go to a junkyard and find them for like $2 or $3 a piece. That's what's the beauty of it, is that we made them work and we did what we had to do to get that part going. Now, you guys at home, if you have, just a basic welder, a little bit of ingenuity and some patience, you at home can make the exact same thing happen. So I hope it makes you guys understand at home that you can do the exact same thing I'm doing, have a lot of fun doing it, and make these cars get back on the road where they deserve. So I appreciate you guys watching. Make sure you get your roadstoration stickers. The link is down in the description below. Also get your shirts while you're there. And on top of that, like this video, subscribe, turn on the notifications if you want to see more of this, because you don't need to miss this. This car again is going to Mo Party no matter what, September 16th or 18th of this year. It's going to be there regardless if it runs or if I have to push it across the line. I don't care. We're going to be there. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.